Welcome to Module 2, Part 2. Here is where things get really fun and interesting. The next thing that we're going to do right now is create a list of the top 10 to 15 media outlets that we would like to contribute to. Although we are all about thinking big, we're going to be speaking about my laddering up strategy a bit later, but we don't want to go straight to the most tricky or hard to get publications first. We want to get some wins on the board and then ladder up to those. So we might not necessarily want to go straight to Oprah or the New York Times or Vogue. So think about your ideas and what can come first or next. You can think local or national or niche. Maybe you want to write for Mind Body Green or Penny Hoarder or Thrive Global. What about Runner's World, Tiny Buddha, Entrepreneur, Business Insider? You can also always write for an open platform like Medium. Medium is the writer's platform and anybody can publish anything there. And often the posts on Medium can go very viral and be super duper popular. So let's also not rule out open platforms. We want to create a list within 72 hours, because this is an Action Takers program, are the type of places that you would like to write. So let's just take a moment now and think. You can even jot down your list now. What are you reading? Where's your avatar? Certainly take time to research and do some of the background work first to really understand who's reading what and which audience demographic is found in which media. But what already pops up as your ideas in terms of where you'd like to pitch, where you'd like to be seen, where you think your avatar is, where already you're an active reader? What are some of the publications you already know that you'd love to be writing for and featured on? Let's take a minute now and just jot down a few ideas. If you also want to do some of the research now and dive straight into different avatars and audience profiles, you can certainly put me on pause and come back anytime. Within 72 hours, it's our goal for you to create a hit list of where you'd like to be featured. And put simply, it only needs to have a couple of things. An audience match to your avatar, who it is that you would like to speak to. A place where you'd be proud to have your name featured. And then simply a connection, an understanding, you having a specific appreciation for that publication. That way your writing will be a natural fit, and what it is that you have to say will be a natural joining of their already active conversation. Once we have that list, what comes next? It's finding an editor's contact information. This is where a lot of people trip up because they think, oh gosh, I can't find anything, I don't know anybody. And I can tell you that I have not only no writing qualifications, no education beyond high school, I don't come from any type of big city, and I had no connections. I really just figured this out with some playing around. And one of the reasons I really wanted to create this program is to really demystify finding out the right person to contact and make you get there way faster and get way further and not take the kind of years of learning that it took me. You can really cut through the noise and find the right person to pitch easily. Here's how. You can check the About section of any website. Typically an About section will break down a team and people, and you can find your person quickly. If you go into a magazine, often 3 or 4 pages in after some of the big ads, you'll see specific editors, features editor, health editor, beauty editor, example. And you can find which is the right fit for you based on what it is that you have to say. LinkedIn's also a great resource. You can see people who work at different publication houses. Easy peasy. Twitter's also great. Is known as a writer's platform. If you're not on there, it's okay. Sometimes it's worth joining Twitter just specifically to find editors' contact information, because most editors are on there and they do share articles on Twitter. And sometimes you can even tweet editors and get their attention that way. You want to make sure that you're speaking to an editor versus a columnist or a contributor. What that means is you want to be pitching somebody who's a staff writer, not a columnist or a contributor like me. What that means is I contribute and I'm a columnist for lots of different publications, but I don't work for any of them. I'm not sitting at any office. I don't have any agenda from my boss. I just contribute freely, almost like a freelancer. So pitching me isn't a great idea because it's not my job to come up with 10 fresh pieces of content per day for the website. So you want to make sure you're pitching an editor specifically, meaning a staff writer, versus a columnist or flexible contributor like I am. Now here is your secret weapon. This is the resource that you need to find contact email addresses. So punch in this link into your website, into your browser, and you'll be able to look at the name of the company, the person's name, and it will spit out the right email address for you. It's perfect. I've used it. It's up to date, and you can reach almost anyone this way. I hope this makes sense and you can really understand specifically how to find people, because once you have your message and the person to pitch it to, you are off to the races. Now, which media is going to drive results for you? Which media is going to really change the game? Not all media is created equal, as we touched upon, and so it's essential that we define our objective. Like we said, knowing who we are and what we want to say is critical. So think, what is it that you most want out of your first or next media feature? Is it you want to build social proof and credibility, as in you want your name to be followed by as seen in X or Y publication? Is it to create awareness of your name, your brand, what it is that you stand for? Is it to promote a product or service specifically? Is it to generate leads or potential customers, which is a direct call to action? Is it to drive sales, meaning specifically you're linking to a book or a sales page or some other type of product? Is it maybe just to drive traffic to blow up your own blog or website? It's important that the media works to your advantage. Here's some breakdown of how media works in different ways. With television, for example, it's definitely the highest level of social proof. If you can be featured on any television, often that's the most impressive by the average person's standards. It's wonderful too if it's promotional in nature. For example, television really sells books. But it won't drive a lot of direct sign-ups. Meaning, if you're featured on a TV show, it would be quite uncommon for someone to see your name, Google your name, go to your website and opt in to whatever offer you have. It doesn't do that in the same way that a standard online article does. It takes a lot of preparation sometimes to get featured on some of the bigger networks. And typically TV segments are short and broad. So even if you write specifically about a really niche area, a TV segment will also be pretty broad, so you can't necessarily get your complete message in. Podcasts are different. They have different benefits. Great social proof to be featured on different podcasts. It can be more niche, so you can really align with your target market, because often podcasts are very targeted in terms of who they reach. Podcasts have very loyal followings too, so people like to catch up on missed episodes, meaning that if you're on a podcast, it's not just important the day it's released, you can be listened to months, even years later. Typically it's a smaller following, but smaller and loyal. You need to be reliant on your host being a good interviewer and really getting to the questions that you want to be answered. And it can take a little while for some followers to consume the content because people don't always listen to podcasts as they're released. When it comes to Facebook Lives or any type of social media takeovers, again, great social proof. Facebook's algorithm does prioritize live content. Often the host of maybe Entrepreneur, for example, will allow cross-posting and audience retargeting, meaning that you can take that post and share it amongst your own Facebook ad segments too. It doesn't tend to drive a lot of different leads and sign-ups, but again, that social proof can make up for that. Typically, there's no longer than 15 minutes of a segment, but it can also be highly interactive and it builds a great connection. You can get lots of different questions and engagement from an audience during some type of live. Guest blogging, however, is certainly my favorite, as you can tell. It's really easy for the audience to digest because you typically write less than 1,000 words. My average article is around 600 or 700. You build a very loyal audience and following once you contribute somewhere and people are used to hearing from you. It allows you to tap into huge audiences. there's nothing actually like the viral nature of an article going live. It's succinct and controllable because you link specifically to your own call to action. When media syndication takes place, that has a multiplier effect. Syndication means that different news sources and website sources and any really information sources online, which is largely all the websites that we want to write for, they syndicate and cross-promote content from different websites because they want the content, and they'll often just take it and say this was originally featured in X or Y publication. This has happened to me a lot, and it means that I might write for one publication, but when they get syndicated, I have a whole lot more eyeballs, including internationally and in places I would never even think to pitch. This is also what Seth Godin speaks about, the viral nature of sharing articles. He said publicly once that he would never start a podcast because podcasts aren't shared in the same way that articles and the written word is. This is why guest blogging and posting is so critical. Posts, sometimes though negative, can be buried and have bad placement, but often you can control a lot of the sharing yourself on your own social channels. The biggest media hack I've ever discovered has been from being a pretty prolific guest poster. And this is one thing that I've really figured out and has really helped me focus on where it is I want to write and what it is that I want to say. It's called the guest post pay gap. Now, you want to really settle in for this one because this is probably something new or something that you've never considered. But it makes a very big difference in terms of not only how many email signups you get, how much traffic your website gets, how many new inquiries you get for your business or services, but it means that because your article is out there in perpetuity, meaning the internet has a perfect memory, nothing's ever deleted, it means that having the right connection and no gap between your content and your bio means that for years, months, weeks, months, years to come, people will still be signing up, still be consuming your content, and still be knowing where to find you. I'm going to give you some examples. If you contribute an article, and then directly beneath your article, there is a link or call to action to your website or landing page or opt-in, that is far better than if there is a gap. So if the reader gets distracted at all, they're much less likely to observe the call to action or sign up or buy or follow up link, which is essentially your unique call to action. You can see this here on Mind Body Green. My article was completed, and then there is a related read section, and then my bio, or what we media speakers call the shirt tail. This is not ideal because often a reader will think, the article's over, click to the next related read. I want them to read about me and go to my website. And you can see too in mobile, it's even worse because the related reads take up way more space, and if somebody scrolls to the very end or looks me up, will they see my unique call to action, which in this case was signing up for my weekly wellness newsletter. On Brit & Co to the right here, you can see that they've created a gap with asking for tweets to Brit & Co. So you can see my last sentences. Once you realize how you can use your strengths to build the business you've always wanted, you'll start to get really excited. And then they say, do you have a side hustle? Tell us about it at Brit & Co. And there's the gap before it goes to my bio and or shirt tail. So ideally there is no gap. Ideally there is nothing that sits between your final sentence and your specific call to action. You can see this here on Greatest, Business Insider and News.com.au, 3 different publications that I write for pretty regularly. You can see on Greatest, my final sentence is, be here now, well, that calm will carry you far. Susie Moore is Greatest life coach, columnist, and a confidence coach in New York City. So you can see there is no gap, there is no space. It leads directly into who I am and what you need to do. See, sign up for her weekly wellness tips on her website and check back every Tuesday for her latest column. That is a perfect setup by Greatest, which leads to a lot of email subscribers for me. In Business Insider, you can see it's precisely the same way. Here I say, I end my article. There's a Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. If you yearn for a side hustle, start now and buckle up, because what transpires might just astonish you. Then it goes straight into Susie Moore is a British-born writer and confidence coach in New York City. She, blah, 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 blah. But you can see it goes directly into who I am. So the reader can scroll directly and click on whatever call to action I've created. On the right here, you can see I finished an article with, sorry, the reruns of Game of Thrones won't get you anywhere. You have work to do. Are you with me? Haha. Susie is an Australian former Fortune 500 sales director, etc., etc., linking to my book and to my website. So you can see that there's no gap in these three examples, and that's really what you want. I'm at a stage in my business now where I always want more leads, more subscribers, more people to my site. That said, it was important to me to really build up my portfolio of places I've been seen in to really build great social proof. So the places that I've written for that give me a gap, I pretty much no longer write for them unless there's a really great opportunity for a specific topic. I write only in places where there will be no gap so I can meet my own objective. In the beginning, however, if you want to write for specific sites and don't really mind about the leads as your first goal, you can write anywhere to get that logo, to say as seen in, and to put that logo on your website. Already that is tremendous social proof. You can use it in your email signature. You can use it in your Twitter bio, Instagram bio, contributor to @Shape Magazine, for example, and not care about the leads, but use it and leverage it in a different way. Now, because I only care about leads, this is what is important to me. So I don't guest post much anymore unless there's a natural flow to my CTA, but that might be different for you in the beginning. But this is important to be aware of because once your CTA is something more action targeted, then you're going to want to pay attention to this gap too. When this comes to supercharging your CEO, it makes all the difference too, because those backlinks in your bio really boost your organic, natural search engine optimization. You want to make sure you backlink the right keywords to your website. We're going to be getting into the specifics of my shirt tails and bios and how they change and how I recommend that you change yours, depending on the audience that you're writing for. But however it is that you want to be known as an author, as a life coach, as a yoga teacher, as a financial expert, you want the name that you want people to be Googling. And if someone Googles that life coach, I want my name to come up. What do you want to come up when people search what? So how it is that you describe yourself, you want that word to be linking back to your website. That gives you a great organic search boost. You only ever really need a handful from any given site to really make this work. And it's better if those sites are of a similar niche industry or subject matter close to your own. So there's a really natural, nice fit, and the link back really works in your favor. Hopefully this makes sense in terms of what is feeling good to you in terms of supercharging your SEO and knowing where it is that you would like to be seen. In the next module, we're going to be speaking specifically about rejection-proof pitching. So now we know who it is that we are, our celebrity identity. We know the money spot, where it is we'd like to be seen and why, because our avatars are there. We know specifically how to find contact information. Now we need to get our pictures out there so we see our fabulous work and the world gets to see us. Our visibility is increased and people get to find out about us. We don't need to be hidden gems. We can be people that are known, people that are talked about, people whose ideas are shared. And that's coming up in Module 3, so I'll see you in the next module.